you mentioned two large craters.
Yes.
Where does those two large craters fit in the whole world?
Oh, well. Oh, by the way, those are the asteroids that are going around the Earth right now.
I know we're going to get hit again, but...
You asked that question. Sorry, guys. This is it. There are a couple hundred impact craters known. This is the distribution of those known. The size of the diameter of the circle is also a measure of how big it is and so forth. They're also arranged by age, by color. So this place has been peppered with them. Yes, sir?
You mentioned, I think it was iridium?
Iridium, yes.
The thin layer?
Yes.
And so around the world?
Yeah, right there.
Okay, that was out west, right?
Yes, sir. Colorado.
What about here? Do we
Oh.
have a layer of that?
We have something that Emily Bronte wrote about, which means that we don't have that record. Remember she wrote Wuthering Heights? Okay?
So it's eroded away?
Anyway, because everything we have sits here and gets weathered and eroded. And we don't have, up in northern Virginia, we have a little inkling of it, but we are too close to the impact. And we had humongous tsunamis back then. And it really didn't leave a good record for us. So it's sporadic, but you got it in Italy, that's where it was first discovered. And then in Russia and parts of Africa and South America, it was a big event worldwide. Okay?
What's the one near the Great Lakes, the big one?
Oh, that big one? That's a crater in Canada, and it's rather neat because you can see the outline of it from the air because, are you ready? It weathered and been eroded, and the dang Canadians decided, we can dam a couple of those, and we'll have a huge circular reservoir, and we'll put a hydroelectric plant at the bottom. Okay? So you can really see it today. You can go up and take a road trip on it, or you can actually take a boat ride. Yes, sir?
Isn't that where, we just had club members talk about that, a couple of NASA scientists. They went up there and did some talking to the mines about mining technology. They said some of the most nickel, I think it was.
Sudbury.
Sudbury, that's it, sir.
Yeah. And then in Africa, the diamond pipe, some of those are related to impact. I mean, when you look around, we can benefit from it. But on the other hand, if you were there at the time, it must have been devastating. The bombardment was really heavy. Just think of it this way. In roughly the first 150 billion years, the Earth grew from small particle to its almost present dimension. And then it was hit by another body, which took off a chunk of it. Yeah. Many of you have seen the National Geographic issue. Ooh.
Which one?
Let's see. It's the one before sugar. Sugar is the present one right now. And it's
last
month?
Yeah,
last month.
right.
Yeah. And that's really an interesting article. And it's based on good science. I don't want to keep it too long.
Do you have more questions? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Ma'am.
The Hudson Bay, does that have, that's always mystified me, the shape of it, where it is. Is that water or
Well,
what?
I thought it was an impact crater, but it is circular. That's peculiar. It's almost perfectly circular, so it looks like a good candidate. But I've heard arguments both ways. It isn't, but it isn't. But you got to remember that that part of the world is now in the billions of years old rock. That we're an early event. It's had literally billions of years of erosion, weathering, and erosion. And so maybe the story isn't as clear. Marilyn and I went in Sweden. She was born in Africa, that's why she's a little strange. Every other year, we meet with somebody who went to school with her in Africa. We went to Sweden. And I noticed this one town was really kind of neat. It was kind of nestled in this bowl. And when I got back, I didn't look at the geology before. But you know what it was? It was an impact crater. About 5-6 miles across. Nice size. Okay, next question back there. Yes, young man.
Where do you store and study 5 miles of core samples from the eastern shore, sir?
Big repositories. The U.S. Geological Survey, take this building, they have 2 of them. Building cores, and then they're big buildings.
Is the public invited, or is that top secret information?
No, it's, you know, this is not something that the NSA is going to worry about. These can be seen, and some of them are exhibit. Did you ever get those samples?
Yes.
Okay, he's actually got some, and it'd be something we'll show him. I did not rank mine because mine are lousy shape. He's got nice ones. But in any case, yeah, you can make arrangements to see these. It's nothing. When you start to see it, you know, look at an event 35.5 million years ago, and here's evidence for it. I get that way of looking at life, ancient life. Yes, ma'am.
Just looking at the distribution of the impact craters, I don't know if there's something to that distribution. Does that have to do more with, you know, the quality of research being done in those areas, or just?
Well, 2 things. One is, to find them on the seafloor is much more difficult. And remember, much of the seafloor is recent.
I mean, obviously, but I mean, even just in areas of Asia or, you know, South America, I mean, I didn't know if that was something.
Well, the Chinese and the people here have not done so much research as we have. So they're probably there. You know, if you could there be an impact crater, let's say, in North Carolina that's been buried by all this rush of sediments out over that built their coastal plain? It could be. You see, there's all kinds of possibilities for other impact craters. You can make your name looking for them. Yes?
Is there anything to the fact that you see bigger patterns of, or bigger clusters in more industrialized areas rather than developed?
Yeah, there's a reason.
Yeah.
They usually have more scientists.
I just don't feel like targets.
Yes,
we
sir.
are.
Yeah.
Okay.
How much of our evidence for impacts has been lost to subduction?
Oh, that's a subductive attitude. Probably an awful lot. Because when you, let's take as an example, when you go to the west coast of South America, there's a great big trench. And what's happening there is the South Pacific floor is being subducted or drawn down underneath. If there's an impact crater here, and 25 million years later, where is it? It's in Baby Joe's locker, gone. And so you don't see it. This is the distribution of impacts through time, roughly. Back about 280 million years. Yes?
So do you pick these up and detect them with satellite observations? Or is this all on the ground surveying?
It's a combination.
Looking at the ground.
But you can't, you know, if you go to the Yucatan, there are land features there that tell you that there's something really peculiar. They're called, oh come on, what's the name of those?
Cenotes?
Cenotes, thank you. They're actually little lakes that form along the margin. How many have been to Yorktown? You been to Yorktown? Good. Been to Cornwallis Cave?
Yes.
Cornwallis Cave, remember, is 30 or 40 miles off of the shoreline when those sediments were formed. How did they get so shallow that you could probably walk in that water? You ready? Here's the seafloor dipping this way. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
Here's a fault on my backside. Ready? Now watch what happens when I slump. See
Ah.
what happened to the seafloor? And that's what happened at Yorktown. There's a fault to the west. William R. Rogers, in the middle of the 19th century, went up there and says, oh, what a cataclysmic event this was. He didn't know what it was, but he knew these were formed in really turbulent waters. And then in about 66, 67, a bunch of kids were measuring those at Cornwallis Cave and Chuckatuck, and we came up with an origin for them, but we couldn't explain why it was shallow water.